Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Alex Alvern and I am back from a super long hiatus. Sorry to everyone that I was gone for so long. I had to spend some time sorting out the job situation to pay the bills and whatnot. But without further ado, let's dive right into this episode. So for those who don't know, Log Horizon is finally coming back for a Season 3 in just a few days. And since it's been years since the last season was released, this video can give you a much needed refresher on what's happened in the past few seasons. Now, this is a very high level overview, so I will be glossing over some of the more minor details. But if you feel like I missed anything major, please let me know down below in the comments. With that said, let's dive in. The series starts in the world of Elder Tale, specifically the city of Akihabara. An estimated 30,000 Japanese players, or several hundred thousand players worldwide, including our main character Shiro, discover they've been teleported and trapped into this world in an event that would eventually be called the Apocalypse. Shiro looks through his friends list, sees his chat still works, and finds his friends Naotsugu and Akatsuki. We're given some backstory, and it's determined that the NPCs are called People of the Land, and the players are called Adventurers. They go visit Shiro's friend Marielle, who leads the guild Crescent Moon Alliance, where we learn the state of things. Along with Akihabara, the other four major cities on the Japanese server, Shibuya, Minami, Susukino, and Nakasu, are all in a similar situation, in that teleporting between cities has been disabled. Further, a new expansion pack called Novasphere Pioneers was just released, meaning that even veteran players of this game will not necessarily be experts in everything within this new reality. We also get alluded to some history, where Shiro used to be the strategist in a legendary small group called the Debauchery Tea Party, which for some reason got disbanded. They then go into the forest to test out how the battling mechanics work here relative to how they did in the game. After seeing a player respond at the cathedral, we learn that death in the game doesn't equal death in real life as it did in some other notable isekai series. Shiro and team sync up with the Crescent Moon Alliance again and learn about a recent rise in player killings in Akihabara. They go out to train and subsequently get ambushed by a squad of player killers, but easily defend themselves and take out their opponents. Since people can't die in the game, Shiro believes that these killing sprees are mainly done for entertainment purposes. Our crew then sets off to rescue Sarora in the district of Susukino. While Sarora seems to be okay as she's taking care of a cat player named Nyanta, the district is continuously pillaged by the Brigandia Guild. Shiro and team make their way through a dungeon while en route to their destination, and the ancient bridge in that dungeon subtly crumbles and sends Shiro tumbling down to the lake below, where he and his party face off with the dungeon boss. After beating the creature, they exit the dungeon to a nice view of a sunset. Meanwhile, we learn that Demikos, the leader of Brigandia, has issued a manhunt for Nyanta and Sarora. Shiro and his friends finally arrive in Susukino, where they meet up with Sarora and Nyanta, and Shiro discovers that his old friend Nyanta was the one who was protecting Sarora. Upon trying to leave the district, Shiro's crew is once again ambushed, this time by the Brigandia Guild. Battle ensues between Nyanta and Demikos, who calls in for reinforcements, and the whole thing turns into a brawl, with Shiro's party eventually emerging victorious. Having completed their mission, Shiro, Nyanta, and Naotsugu summon 3 different griffins and make their way back to Akihabara. The team sets up camp, and Nyanta explains that only those with a chef subclass are able to prepare food with any flavor, as the flavorless food in this world so far has been a sore spot for many. We get some backstory into the legendary adventuring group the Debauchery Tea Party, and Shiro ponders that the people of the land, the NPCs of this world, are more human than many people like to think, and that the players are the actual anomalies in this world. We're then brought to a party thrown by the Crescent Moon Alliance, and Marielle gives Shiro the rundown on what's been going on in his absence. Basically, a divide has been growing between the strong guilds and the weak guilds, where the strong guilds have been monopolizing resources like hunting grounds and using ethically questionable potions from the Hamlin Guild to speed up their leveling. Shiro then asks the Crescent Moon Alliance to help end Hamlin's sketchy plot and to help restore Akihabara to its harmonious state with his newly formed guild, Banana Log Horizon. Oh my god, they said the name of the show in the show! Shiro and Henrietta have Marielle approve a huge budget for Shiro's plot, which requires some 5 million gold funding requests, taking advantage of Elder Tales not having any rules on how currency must be obtained. The Crescent Moon Alliance then opens up a food stall, which blows up in popularity given their flavorful food, a commodity that's been majorly missed in this world. The stall earns 40,000 gold in profit, and later that night Shiro and Nyanta request help from former Debauchery Tea Party member Sojiro Theta, who is also head of the guild Brigade of the West Wind, who is also happy to help his old friends. Marielle and Henrietta meet with the head of the Shopping Street 8 Guild, Karashin, and talk about a trade agreement for the next phase of Shiro's plan. The negotiation gets sticky, with Karashin trying to score an exclusive deal with the Crescent Moon Alliance's food truck, but Shiro already anticipated this and Marielle and Henrietta make it clear that they are already looking at other partners for trade agreements as well, namely Michitaka and his marine agency, as well as the Roderick Merchant Guild, resulting in Karashin quickly accepting the alliance's offer at a lower price. Henrietta then convinces the 3 guildmasters to invest the remaining gold. Then begins the Round Table Conference, where the bigwigs from the major guilds are all in attendance. These include the major warrior guilds, DDD, the Black Sword Knights, Honesty, the West Wind Brigade, and Silver Sword. Also in attendance are major crafting guilds and merchant guilds, including the Marine Agency, Roderick Merchant Guild, Shopping Street 8, Glendale, Radio Market, and Marielle's Crescent Moon Alliance, which is more of a support guild. And of course, Shiro's guild, Log Horizon, is also represented. Shiro begins to discuss his goal of improving the living conditions of the city. The Silver Sword Guild's Chad leader, William Massachusetts, isn't about that life and abruptly takes his leave. Shiro goes into detail about the city's troubles, including the item extortion campaign by the Hamlin Guild, whose captives were preparing to escape as we speak, as well as Susukino's dire state. Guild leaders Isaac of the Black Sword Knights and Krusty of DDD hop into the debate and discuss what punishments would be for guilds who refuse to follow these newly created laws, to which Shiro offers sanctions. The debate descends into chaos, leading Shiro to reveal his master plan, which involves his purchase of the guild building using the 5 million gold and establishes his dominance over the guilds via his newly acquired control, thus living up to his reputation as the villain in glasses. Being all but forced to cooperate, the Round Table arrives at a result. New laws would be established that would ban killing, imprisoning, or kidnapping players, and gives folks the freedom to join or quit guilds when they want. And the people of the land would be treated the same as regular players, as Shiro convinces everybody the importance of living peacefully among them. As such, the Round Table is formed and the session is concluded. The following week, Shiro snags a new headquarters for Log Horizon and welcomes Toya and Minori, who were previously coaxed into joining an unsavory guild as Log Horizon's new members. In parallel, we see that spies start to infiltrate Akihabara, sent by the League of Freedom cities of Eastel. Naotsugu and Akatsuki help train the new members, Toya and Minori, and Shiro starts working in a scribe class by making a new contract. Marielle keeps whining about wanting to visit the beach, so Shiro gets the idea of holding a summer training camp for new players. Then we see emissaries of Sergiet arrive in Akihabara. These are people of the land, and we see the villagers all start bowing. The emissaries invite the Round Table to a meeting and ball, and Shiro and Krusty ponder the pros and cons of whether or not to get involved in the affairs of the people of the land. The Round Table reps arrive at the Palace of Eternal Ice where a discussion ensues, and Shiro observes that the people of the land and adventurers alike are both wary of each other. In parallel, Naotsugu prepares the trainees for entering the Forest of Laglanda dungeon for their training the following day. The following day, Shiro proposes that they create rules to protect the Round Table, as he believes that the people of the land will soon start competing amongst themselves when dealing with adventurers in an effort to gain technological and general power, and thus has Akatsuki begin reconnaissance. At the same time, the training camp at the Forest of Laglanda splits into groups, encountering monsters and learning how to better use their skills. But despite their best efforts, they get steamrolled and run away with their tails between their legs. At the Palace of Eternal Ice, Krusty shoots his shot with Princess Lanessia, shamelessly forging his path as that guy with a digital girlfriend. Further flexing his machismo, Krusty engages in some courtyard duels, coincidentally in plain view from Lanessia's window, before promptly proposing a contest where the winner gets to take her on a date. On a less romantic quest, Akatsuki clandestinely listens in on people from the palace. The training group is still doing a terrible job exploring the dungeon, while Lord Dart asks Michitaka to spill the beans on sea technology. Krusty friendzones Lanessia by comparing her to his sister, or it might just be a form of negging or playing hard to get, who knows. The episode ends with the creepy and mysterious entrance of Reagan, the Sage of Mirror Lake. Reagan is revealed to be a person of the land, who specializes in the study of world-class magic, and we dive into his explanations of the World Fraction spell and how it has historically been used 3 times. The first time was when the humans, dwarves, and elves banded together to destroy the Alv Kingdom, who out of revenge cast the first World Fraction spell, which introduced perpetually respawning demi-human monsters to wreak havoc on the world. The second time was when adventurers first appeared in the world, though they were still players in the game. The third time it was used was the apocalypse that brought the adventurers to this world permanently, something Shiro correctly deduced early on. Perhaps the biggest revelation of the episode was that Reagan theorizes that adventurers' memories are gradually lost or degraded each time they respawn, and Shiro decides to keep this information to himself for now. Minori and her Bush League team take a step back to reassess their battle strategy and come up with a new game plan to be more in sync. And then by using the power of teamwork and friendship, they overcome the dungeon with ease. Later that night, Isuzu and Rundle House are getting along well, so she tries to add him to her friend list and for a mysterious reason is unable to. The next day, the beach is attacked by fish people. Goblins start approaching from the north, and the round table is gathered once more. Shiro theorizes that the goblin attacks are due to a quest called Goblin King's Return. Essentially, since everyone's been too focused on building up Akihabara, many of the quests from the people of the land have been ignored, allowing the Goblin King an opportunity to build up an army at the Goblin base at 7th Fall. The Chibi training group also sees a goblin force marching toward a nearby town called Choshi. To protect the Palace of Eternal Ice, Shiro asks Sojiro and his guild, the West Wind Brigade, to stand guard if it comes under attack. Shiro then spills the beans and reveals to everyone his theory that when people die in this world, they start to lose memories of the old world, which Krusty confirms as he reveals that he's already had this occur to him to some degree. Meanwhile, the Chibi crew arrives at Choshi too late, and Minori realizes that adventurers don't need to wait for permission to help the people of the land. She is a strong, independent woman, and she can take the fight directly to the goblins as she damn well pleases. So she convinces Nyanta and Naotsugu to let her ragtag team launch a surprise assault on the goblins. Meanwhile, the Eastel lords in the Round Table engage in a fiery negotiation about sending adventurers to protect the people. Understandably, the Round Table takes offense, as the Eastel lords are being sneaky by keeping major secrets, such as the fact that the famous Izumo Knights have disappeared, and are using fancy politics wording to coerce the adventurers into taking on all the danger. Princess Lanessia enters to save the day, and being the best girl that she is, proclaims that when you ask somebody for something, you should put respect on the name, and thus volunteers to go to Akihabara to personally ask for the help of any willing adventurers. Lanessia arrives in Akihabara and is amazed by the city. Shiro and Krusty organize a meeting, drawing a large crowd of adventurers, explain the threat of the goblin army attacking Eastel, and introduce Lanessia, who makes a genuine and powerful speech, pleading for the adventurers to come to their aid and defend Eastel. The adventurers excitedly rally behind her in acceptance, and some head off with Krusty and Lanessia to Narashino Port, while the others go with Shiro to set up a battle HQ at Midorant Equestrian Park. Meanwhile, Sergiet meets with Henrietta and Michitaka to discuss the consequences of Lanessia's outburst at the meeting, with a rift and trust growing between the League and the Cohen family, as there are growing suspicions that the family has secret dealings with the adventurers, and they land on just taking a wait-and-see approach. Krusty's army arrives at the battlefield, and the battle begins at Kasumi Lake, while Shiro at the Battle HQ explains the important role the town of Choshi plays in his strategies against the goblins. A large monster army marches on Choshi, and the Chibi squad of trainees engages to defend the town, while their mentors Naotsugu and Nyanta notice that Minori is trying to walk in Shiro's footsteps. The battle rages on, and Minori's team starts to slowly but surely get overpowered, losing control of the battle. In an effort to save his comrades, Rundlehouse charges at the beast in a suicide attack, losing his life in the process. The party tries to revive him, but is unable to, as Isuzu sadly explains that Rudy was actually a person of the land who dies permanently. Not wanting to give up, Minori quickly calls up Shiro. Shiro quickly flies over to Choshi and makes his way to Minori's party and Rundlehouse's body. He comes up with an ingenious backdoor hack to save Rudy's life by first using a zombie potion to bring him back to life for 3 minutes, and then having him sign a contract to join the Log Horizon Guild and fulfill his duties as an adventurer. That way, when the potion expired and he died again, he'll be revived at the cathedral as he's now an adventurer. It makes you wonder why Shiro can't just do this with literally all the people of the land to make them adventurers and immortal, but hey, this is a series recap video, not a plot hole analysis video. As expected, Rudy is revived at the cathedral, where he gets a stern scolding by Isuzu. Meanwhile, Krusty and his crew continue to slaughter the Goblin General's forces with wanton violence and extreme prejudice. A month passes and there's a big party in Eastel to celebrate the adventurers defeating the Goblin General. Shiro learns of an event called the Demon Festival of Suzuku Gate, and overhears a mysterious woman telling a tale of how he saved Rudy to a group of kids. Shiro goes to see Reagan and gets some more information on how the Izumo Knights were involved with the Demon Festival, and that another adventurer in the Minami district had used world-class magic. Lanessia moves to Akihabara to start her role as ambassador, and Shiro spreads rumors about the consequences of losing memories as a result of dying, rather than making a big announcement about it, thus getting the information out there, but in a way that doesn't cause mass immediate panic. Another festival called the Scale Festival begins, a common theme in the show as people seem to really love festivals. The entire episode is really touchy-feely, with lots of slice-of-life activities around the festival going on. Akatsuki later joins Shiro and awkwardly shows his feelings for him, while Minori catches them and cries since she's simping over Shiro as well. The next day of the Scale Festival, since one day wasn't enough, was filled with more festival activities, but also filled with the rowdy behavior by different people of the land. The occurrences start stacking up and becoming suspicious, with Shiro finally realizing that something strange was going on after Minori reports irregularities in the festival paperwork resulting in errors from the people. Shiro concludes that the city might be under attack and runs for the guild building, while a suspiciously mysterious Lord Malves of the Westland Holy Empire sailing by ship toward Akihabara. Shiro theorizes it is Lord Malves who is the master schemer behind the attack on the city, and believes the goal is to tarnish the reputation of the Round Table and a treaty with Eastel. Shiro tries to find a pattern in all the disturbances going on, but can't seem to do so, realizing that the people of the land are improvising on the spot. He comes up with a counterattack plan, which is to just make the festival go as smoothly as possible, and enlists Sojiro and his harem guild, the West Wind Brigade, to patrol. Lord Malves, meanwhile, harasses Lanesia at the banquet about his seafood shipment not being properly received, and starts accusing her family and the city of improperly managing paperwork, which will cause his shipment of food to spoil as a result, and Shiro, Krusty, and Michitaka come to save her. The trio basically call Lord Malves out on his bluff, and say they actually did receive his paperwork, which we probably never sent, and have his warehouses all ready to go, and can even help Malves unload all of his cargo. And then they call him out, saying, unless you don't actually have any cargo, and this whole thing was just a ploy against the princess, to which Malves abruptly says, I feel unwell, and pieces out of the room. Later on, Shiro runs into the storyteller that he saw earlier, who calls herself Dariella. But Shiro sees through her disguise and correctly identifies her as Nereha, leader of the guild Plant Huyuden, who has completely monopolized and taken control of the city of Minami in the Westland through unsavory methods like buying and controlling the cathedral. Nereha gives a big, confusing speech filled with various lies, and then invites Shiro to join her. Shiro refuses, also giving a big, confusing speech about not using her as an excuse for things, and how he can better serve her as a foe rather than an ally, and then she disappears in a wave of crow silhouettes, Uchiha Itachi style. Shiro is then seen eating pizza with his guild outside a nice little rooftop dinner table, having a sentimental moment where his guildmates all look to him for leadership, each guessing what Log Horizon's next mission will be, to which Shiro responds, none of those things. Log Horizon's next mission will be... And then he goes into an internal monologue about how this world is their new reality without ever really answering the question, and thus ends Season 1. Season 2 begins with Log Horizon's favorite thing to do in the world, a festival. A major problem is revealed in that while it was important for the Round Table to buy the major buildings like the Guild Hall and the Cathedral so they don't fall into enemy hands, the monthly cost to own these buildings is staggering. Tens of millions of gold per month, and to solve the issue, they need trillions of gold. Getting this gold is a challenge because banks in this world don't lend money. They only provide checking accounts, and even if they rounded up everyone's existing cash today, it still wouldn't be enough. So Shiro announces that he's leaving Akihabara for an extended period of time to go solve this issue, and takes Reigen and Naotsugu to meet another shady character, Kinjo of the Kunie clan, a clan who somehow controls all the gold in the world or something like that. Shiro basically tells Kinjo, I know where you live and where you keep your leprechaun gold, a deep cave called the Depths of Palm, to which Kinjo responds, you'll never catch me Lucky Charms, you'll have to defeat the super strong raid dungeon, protecting him first. So Shiro sets off to put together a raid party, but realizes he can't call upon the Round Table guilds since there are probably spies from Minami watching their every move. Meanwhile, Krusty, Isaac, and their crew launch an offensive against the goblins at 7th Fall. Shiro, Naotsugu, and Reigen go to Susukino, where they meet with William Massachusetts and his Silver Sword Guild to recruit them for the raid on Wall Street. William explains most of his guild got tired of fighting and losing their memories and retired, so he's only got a small number of troops left, but those that are left are glad to help. To fill the remaining open seats of the 24-person raid, they also recruit healer/teen idol narcissist Tetra and former nemesis Demikos, the leader of Brigandia, who have now pretty much become subservient lapdogs to the Silver Swords. The raid party arrives at the lowest levels of the Depths of Palm and enters the raid zone called the Abyssal Shaft as they embark on their pirate journey to find One Piece. But the raid proves to be extremely challenging, with them having to do complex linear algebra and calculus to predict the raid boss's attack patterns through much trial, error, death, and respawning. The entire time, Demikos throws tantrums around at the monsters as he yells about how much he hates Shiro, basically saying, I'll help the raid, but I won't like it. After much trial and error, the raid party succeeds. Akatsuki, being the sulking, angsty teen that she is, yearns to get stronger, so she stalks the other guilds as they train to learn something about this mysterious new type of skill called the Teachings. A mysterious, ghostly-looking samurai named Enhart Nelreth appears in Akihabara and starts murdering people in alleys, starting with Kyoko of the Westwind Harem Brigade. Enhart continues to be a menace to society, prompting the Round Table to evacuate the lower-leveled members from the city. Kinjo of the Kunie clan meets with Lanesia and takes responsibility for the serial killings that have been happening, explaining that one of his clan members stole a set of the Royal Guard armor, which is used by the world to prevent things like PvP in the city and grants the wearer super high powers and teleportation. Enhart appears at night again, attacking members of the Westwind Harem Brigade, and Sojiro steps in to fight him. With his back against the wall, Akatsuki appears to assist him, and he displays his teaching's ability to her in hopes that she can learn something, and then Enhart mops the floor with both of them. Meanwhile, we see Shiro and his raid party get demolished in the dungeon. As Shiro and Akatsuki both died, we see them interact in this other world as they wait and trade fragments of their memories to respawn. We cut to a classroom where Roderick shares new information about some realizations of this world. 1. People can play as different genders, and when they stay in that gender for too long, they become that gender for real. 2. The topography of the land is expanding. 3. The lore, or flavor text, of item descriptions now has material impacts on the item effects and abilities, rather than just being an interesting add-on for immersion. Meanwhile, we see a relevant scene with Krusty and Misa, where Misa's weapon's flavor text is super sketchy and causes the weapon to explode, with Krusty pushing her out of the way and getting vaporized. Risa hears of Krusty's disappearance, and Henrietta advises her to keep her mouth shut for now. The next day, Nazuna assembles a group of players to start planning and training for a way to defeat the serial killer. The plan involves forming a raid party inside the city on New Year's Eve, and for Lanessia to deactivate the magic circle under the city, which would render the Royal Guard armor useless. But this has consequences, since it would also shut down the city's defenses that prevent monsters from currently entering the city, and Kinjo says that it would take decades to be able to turn the magic circle back on. New Year's Eve arrives and the game is on. Nelreth appears and Akatsuki and Mariel engage him before fleeing to various other sections of the city that contain other adventures, essentially using a kiting strategy. This allows different groups to take turns fighting Nelreth, while the earlier groups have time to recover, and also keeps the other groups a safe distance away since Nelreth's magic sword grants him more power the more adventurers are within a certain radius of him. The battle continues and Akatsuki pushes herself to the limit, unlocking her desired teaching skill, the Kagebunshin Shadow Clone Jutsu. Things go well until her sword breaks, so local sword peddler Tatara Aminamona throws her a new special reforged katana that has the ability to break other swords, making it a perfect match to destroy Nelreth's magic sword. Akatsuki lures Nelreth to Risa's position when Lanessia and Kinjo disable the city's magic circle, and Risa uses an ice attack to freeze Nelreth in place, allowing Akatsuki to break his sword since he couldn't teleport away, and his magic Royal Guard armor is now rendered useless. We switch to Shiro's raid group again and see the details of the Christmas Eve battle that wiped out his raid group with a merciless slaughter. They engage the raid boss, Luciat of the 7th Garden, a giant black knight. When he gets damaged enough, his black armor shatters, revealing a white suit of armor, while the shattered black armor turns into side mobs, who then get defeated and then absorbed back into Luciat and heal his HP back significantly. Shiro devises a way to try to counter this, and it looks like they're making some good progress against Luciat, when all of a sudden, to the disbelief of everybody in the raid party, 2 additional raid bosses enter the room and wreak utter havoc on the group, annihilating everyone. Then we see Shiro awake on the moon in the 14th server of Elder Tale called Mare Tranquillitatis, sulking on feelings while waiting to respawn, and we see his perspective on the earlier encounter with Akatsuki before reviving once more. The raid group is super demoralized for obvious reasons, and William gives a big ol' speech about how this world is their life, and how he regrets turning his back on Shiro at the beginning of the series, and how he perseveres in doing the impossible. Everyone's spirits are raised again, and they prepare to take on the trio of raid bosses once more. They attempt Shiro's clever new strategy, which involves temporarily immobilizing Luciat, and then splitting off into separate groups, who then go and simultaneously destroy the other 2 raid bosses before they have a chance to sync up and work together. The plan is going really well, but then the shadow minions of Luciat appear unexpectedly, leading Demikos to aggro and kite them away, but not before snagging Shiro along for the ride. Demikos runs deeper into the dungeon, carrying Shiro as his backpack, who picks off the shadow minions chasing from behind, and then forces Shiro to say his name properly since he's been mispronouncing it the entire series. Shiro finally does, and then Demikos throws Shiro into a tunnel that leads into the final raid boss, Uru of the 9th Garden, who resides in a room filled with all the world's gold, also known as the Federal Reserve. Mounting Uru is Kinjo of the Kunie clan, and Kinjo explains the secrets of how the system collects and distributes gold to the monsters of the world. Shiro then takes out a magic contract, dramatically rips it in 2, and then reveals the true secret behind his big master plan, which is that he is, in fact, a staunch disciple of Karl Marx. You see, Shiro was never planning to plunder the leprechaun gold. After realizing how much of an issue all these money problems were causing, he drafted a contract to take all of the guild property, like the guild hall, the cathedral, etc., and then transfer full ownership to the state, in this case being the Yamato server. and by ripping up the contract, he has made the said transfer eternal. Furthermore, he requests to use all the gold to buy all the property of Yamato, including the forests, the rivers, the mountains, everything, and then transfer all ownership again to the state, launching Akihabara and the surrounding lands into the utopia of communism. Upon successful completion of this insidious plan, they return to Susukino and everyone spends time bonding through the power of friendship. Tetra joins the Log Horizon Guild and is revealed to actually be a boy, how very progressive, and we cut away to a scene where members of the mysterious plant Huyuden Guild discuss the intelligence their spies have gathered from monitoring Shiro in Akihabara. Fast forward to Valentine's Day, and Akihabara is celebrating yet another festival. These people party more than Hugh Hefner and Pitbull combined. It's revealed that in the 6 weeks since the magic circle went down, things are surprisingly peaceful, with monsters not wanting to enter such a powerful place and combat guilds rotating security duty to prevent violence within the city. We then see a pretty weird relationship between Intex and Ureha of Plant Huyuden, where Intex hurtfully keeps insulting Ureha that she should stop thinking about Shiro and that no one will want to get involved with a filthy woman like her. We see Plant Huyuden oversee the launch of a new iron steel train, and 2 former Debauchery Tea Party members, KR and Kazuhiko, who are now in Plant Huyuden, talk about their former Tea Party leader, Kanami. KR ran into her on the China server and found out that she was heading east towards Japan to learn more about the apocalypse with her party, who involves Leonardo, a level 90 assassin who loves the Ninja Turtles way too much, Copelia, a level 90 cleric, who isn't a player, but rather hilariously is actually a farming bot created by a Chinese money laundering group, and Arius Hackblade, a level 100 elf blademancer, known as the progenitor hero of the Red Branch Knights, one of the 13 orders of knights who maintain order in the world. He's such a famous character that he's even listed on the front of the Elder Tales video game box. This is doubly suspicious because all of the progenitors, along with the Izumo Knights, were said to have disappeared with the apocalypse. In the flashback, we see this motley crew arrive in a small village where villagers are mysteriously turning into zombies, and they learn that a giant raid group of nearly 100 level 90s went to go exterminate an invasion of gnolls, but got wiped out now that the gnoll invasion is coming here, and Kanami led the group to go and succeed where that massive raid group had failed by sneaking around enemy lines and assassinating the leader or raid boss directly before retreating. The battle ensues, and the masked boss uses a weird command on Arius, conveying that the people of the land are just software and that he, the survivor, should cease to exist like the rest of the progenitors before Kanami comes to his aid. KR explains that he doesn't know how the battle ended since he died in the battle and respawned in Minami, and that he hasn't told Intex about Kanami, which would make the reunion that much better. The Iron Train sets off, with Plant Huyuden proclaiming time to start a war to the east. Back in Akihabara, the junior members of Log Horizon get excited about going on a quest journey all by themselves to get materials for a magic bag, and that their senior members give them advice such as not trying to contact them too often because they should learn how to figure shit out for themselves, and also to make sure that their weapons are maintained. Then they have their last supper and the chibis take off. Riza sulks that Krusty's still missing and wonders whether he really did just go out to buy milk. The Log Horizon JV squad arrives at a town and plays music in exchange for room and board. The Honesty Guild complains about an influx of a bunch of Leech members who are worthless and don't provide any value, leading Ainz to think about how he can keep his guild's place at the round table. The junior squad sets off again on their journey and is attacked by monsters when they try to rescue some people of the land, but are quickly overpowered and are subsequently saved by a new person calling herself Road 2, a level 90 vampiric summoner who looks suspiciously like Shiro and has a high propensity to heat stroke from the sun. We find out Road 2 wants to change their vampire subclass, and she agrees to assist the junior squad on their journey. The roundtable has a discussion about the growing income disparity between the rich and the poor in Akihabara, where the leader of the Honesty Guild, Comrade Ainz Lenin, proposes borderline communism, where they take all the money from anyone that has over 80,000 gold and just give it to other people. Thankfully, the roundtable instantly rejects that as batshit insane, and the junior squad makes their way through the Boxer Mounds and runs into some people, the land travelers, as well as Dariella, who is really just an Ureha in disguise. They observe a super creepy group called the Odyssey Knights pass by carrying a mobile cathedral that allows them to revive anywhere, but clearly takes a toll on their sanity. Apparently, the people of the land like having the Odyssey Knights around because they protect the nearby villages. The junior group stops by at the town of Safiel to have a little concert, because the only thing that they like more than festivals is concerts. Rudy explains he really loves Isuzu's music because people of the land only have 42 songs given to them by God, so he's truly happy to hear Isuzu's new music as he's unable to create new songs of his own. The next day, Minori and Sarah start to suspect the Odyssey Knights' mobile cathedral is interfering with their telepathy, and then a giant swarm of wyverns make their way towards the town. Luckily, it looks like Nyanta was secretly watching them from a distance to make sure nothing goes awry, or in this case, a wyvern. The Odyssey Knights scramble and take the wyverns on head-on, but the junior squad is horrified when they come to the realization that the knights are just junkies who are charging in with suicide attacks in the hopes of dying as much as possible during the battle. Then, Plant Huyuden activates this weird nightshade device and sends nightshade monsters into the battle to cause even more chaos. Toya confronts the chief Odyssey junkie what his deal is, and the commander responds that he was planning to quit this game and just wants to go home, and whenever he dies he can see a little piece of their home world. Nyanta jumps off his griffin and attacks the Iron Train, which looks to be the command base for the Nightshades, and is confronted by Londark, who we saw earlier in Season 1 as part of Brigandia. Londark is helping Plant Huyuden cause chaos because he's upset that he was forced into this world, and when Nyanta unsuccessfully tries to reason with him, Mizufa, who was the one who launched the train and proclaimed off to war, throws him into the train gears, temporarily killing him. Nyanta and Mizufa duke it out, and just before Nyanta is able to give a killing blow, his old friend from the Tea Party, Kazuhiko, steps in. Nyanta demands answers why Kazuhiko is in on this too, and Kazuhiko just throws Nyanta off the train. Back in the battle-engulfed town, Isuzu uses the classic anime trope of making everything better through the power of song, and sings on a battlefield of death and chaos. Dariella and Noreha, as well as Ro2, part ways from the junior squad, and Shiro begins to ponder the factors that could plunge the world into war. The junior squad sticks around the village to help repair it, and Isuzu hears little kid singing the song that she wrote, making her happy. The West Wind Harem Brigade encounters another alpha male to latch onto, a person of the land who has a mysterious genius title, as well as the ability to use some sort of magic spell to seduce girls in the city and place them under his control. A monster like this in the city is a consequence of them taking down the magical barrier protecting the city. Shiro opens up a letter from Ro2, saying that she is what is called a navigator, a sentient intelligence from another world, and can also be considered his little sister. The roundtable gathers and discusses the recent appearance of the new genius-type monsters around the city, like the genius of measures, Bagris, who can manipulate people's perceptions of item properties and values, as well as distance, speed, skill damage, and targets, as well as the genius of poison, Sislau, who caused a poisoning incident. It's revealed that almost a year has gone by since the apocalypse happened. Adventurers are starting to get antsy that a solution to going back home hasn't been found yet. The Lug Horizon Guild gathers, and Shiro explains the contents of his letter from Ro2, who he reveals to be his second character that he left on the test server when this was a game. Apparently, Ro2 is a being that took over Shiro's second character, and is neither an adventurer nor a person of the land. They are something else entirely, a navigator, which can also be considered like an alien or an artificially created creature. There are two types of navigators, observers, like Ro2, and harvesters. The navigators were created to harvest resources called empathians. The harvesters do the actual collecting, while the observers are tasked with searching. Ro2 then recommends establishing a method to communicate with the moon, as that is where her community is located, and that they are monitoring the situation and can possibly be evaded in returning adventurers to their home world. And finally, she issues a warning about the harvesters, who are the type of genius-type monsters the city has encountered earlier, as they'll attack people to gain empathians at any cost. Roderick explains to Shiro that creating a device to communicate with the moon would cost an insane amount of money, and he's not even sure if it's possible. Lord Sergius calls for Isaac and tells him that he's planning on announcing his son, Isilis, to be the next heir of the Cohen throne, and asks Isaac to continue being a guardian over him. A banquet is later held for Isilis, and when the gifts are presented, Isaac notices that the orange juice presented to the boy is actually poisoned and stops Isilis from drinking it. The assassination attempt then moves into full effect, causing Isaac to grab Isilis and jump out the window as they're chased by assassins from Minami. Isaac pummels all of them and saves the day. Then, while Shiro is talking to Reagan about an old abandoned TV station that they might be able to commandeer to try and communicate with the moon, he receives word about people all over Maihama and Akihabara collapsing as a mysterious black cloud of moth monsters emerges over the city, drip-dropping little spores everywhere. It's discovered that this sleeping phenomenon is only affecting people of the land, and only in Akihabara and Maihama, but not in Susukino. But when the moths attack again, now even some adventurers are affected by the spores, and it's discovered that the spores continuously drain all of the affected people's MP. So Shiro puts together a raid party to attack the moth nest, which is suspiciously also in Shibuya at the TV station that has the antenna that they might be able to use to communicate with the moon. The raid group gets wiped out as Shiro isn't able to focus the entire time, as he's worried about destroying the antenna in the raid. The raid party dispels his uncertainty, saying they don't mind if the antenna is broken, and they're stuck here for a while longer, which allows Shiro to strengthen his resolve and come up with a new plan of attack. Then they get a transmission from Ichimonji no Jusuke that the raid boss has been spotted on the roof of the building. The raid begins again, with a new strategy, and this time is much more successful. The raid group reaches the boss on the roof and identify him as Taliktan, the level 86 genius of summoning. Shiro tries to establish dialogue with the boss, but to no avail. As the battle is putting a major strain on the antenna, the party kites the boss down in a way to take the battle elsewhere. Shiro uses his genius math and observational skills to keep adjusting battle tactics, and the raid party emerges victorious and defeats the raid boss. As soon as the raid boss is defeated, the people who were asleep in the cities start waking up. Reagan gets the radio equipment set up, though rather than connecting to the moon, it connected to the China server, where Kanami was with her party, who were also at a similar station coincidentally. Kanami reveals that the missing Krusty is with her, and challenges Shiro with finding a way to connect this world with the old one, rather than just returning everybody home, as she loves this world and wants her daughter to see it, and Shiro finds newfound motivation and accepts. Meanwhile, we cut away to Plantuyiden, where a newly confident Nereha orders Index to end the war with Eastel and to work together with the Round Table to fight back against the threat from the geniuses. And thus ends Season 2. That wraps up my summary for Log Horizon Seasons 1 and 2. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments, as well as if I missed any important information that you thought was relevant. Also, let me know in the comments what series you think I should summarize next. As usual, if you enjoyed my content and want to help support me in producing more content like this, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified of my future videos. There's a lot more to come, and I hope to see you in the next video. I'm Alex Alvern, and I'll see you in the next one.